Hello, hello, hello. Alright, there is still some delay, but I think that's just because of the fact that um, I'm recording on my laptop on my Xbox. But what I am gonna do is I am going to keep the thing muted so it doesn't like mess up the recording for myself, like in my head. Um, I didn't miss anything. I was trying to make an update. But yeah, so this is well, speaking off with saying hello, to my viewers, right? This is a live stream, so you're here. Thank you for joining. If not, don't worry, cause this is a VOD and also gonna become a video. This is probably gonna be doing some of my videos from now on. Not all of them, of course, but I think it'd be a great way to do it, kind of like how some YouTubers do it. Um, See someone viewing my live. Hello, I don't know. Doesn't tell me who it is, which sucks, cause that would have been fun to see. But yeah, so you want to get some warnings out of the way, cause I'm about to start recording the video, the video segment, and then I either would start new live or just restart it. Um, but overall, I just wanted to give a warning for first of all, spoilers. Uh, when I discuss this, is gonna be mentioning spoilers and whatnot. So I recommend that if you don't want to get spoilers for stuff like Silent Voice or Epic the Musical, then highly recommend that you do not watch this. I think both of those are great things that you should watch in your own time. Um, Let me actually get some gameplay going. But the second thing is, as you can probably tell by the nature of the title of the video, we will be discussing serious topics. Not necessarily the most serious, but actually that's not true. We will be talking about topics like offing oneself. I forgot that. I'm pretty sure I can say that on Twitch, but not YouTube. But like we are gonna be discussing stuff like that, so that make you feel wheezy and mental health in general. So you don't want to watch that. Then you got plenty other videos for you. And then lastly, well, two more things. One, second and last is this video is not planned out. Like I had some of a script in my head, but I didn't plan any more. So if you're new here, it might come off as if I'm going on random tangents, but just trust the process. Um, Most of the time I'm good with making sure that doesn't happen too much, but you never know. Um, but now that I have a live chat with me, y'all be like, hey, no, focus up. Just realized you might not be able to hear that snap, but I snapped. Um, but yeah, with that being said, the last warning is I'm gonna be using a word called actualization. I'm not sure if that's an actual word or not, but in the context of how I'm using it, I am mainly using it as a way to say, hey, the ability to uh, physically or manifest a result similar to what is showcased in the format that you want to achieve it. Maybe that's the best explanation, but essentially, hey, when you actualize something, is your ability to replicate what you have seen and make it in a healthy format for yourself to try to live up to those standards. Um, Hence the title of the thing. But now that we got all those out of the way, let's actually begin with the video, right? Um, and this video was inspired by two girls, right? Um, and it made me realize something that I didn't really take account before to some extent, but like actually actualizing morals and whatnot in stories is harder to do than knowing what they are. Um, the primary reason why I was like realized that this is the case is because of the two people. Um, right off the bat, uh, really funny compare funny comparison that I realized I could make is that I could compare. Let me make sure I am a dude. I'm not sure if I am. I'm pretty sure I am. I have played Terraria a bunch, so I look like an idiot for not knowing this. But funny enough, a great comparison is, sorry I'm butchering this, is amazing series we recommend is Kawagawi. Kawagawi, off the top of my head. Um, but basically, it's a series about people who are linked to each other via this system. And a great comparison, in me in general, unfortunately, is to the main character. But I think that overall, it's a great comparison to some of the scenarios. But in particular, I wanted to forgot I had my computer unmuted. But overall, I wanted to it made me think about a music I'm listening to, Epic, and it made me draw a conclusion in reference to those being, hey, I realize um both of them have some type of format relating to Epic that I can learn from. No, I don't play a Master Mode, by the way. And for one of them, it's more along the lines of ruthlessness. Uh, and the other one is more along the lines of forgiveness. And a great song is "I'm Not Sorry for Loving You" to represent like how it is. But I want to talk about ruthlessness, right? So, because this was a great it's gonna be a great segue if I do it properly. I messed it up already, but let me see if I can repair it. Um, but ruthlessness in the sense of this person I'm talking to or about is on multiple occasions I try to cut them off, but I was like, no, I should have cut them off multiple times, but I never did. Cause I was like, I can help them and whatnot. Um, and if I was just a little bit more ruthless, I would have not had. Well, I didn't really have any issues, but some of the things that were said about me wouldn't have been said about me. But it's that's just how it is sometimes. Um, but a parallel to this is the person I'm gonna call her G. I'm gonna show this video to her, so because I think it'd be a great way to explain how I'm feeling. But G is a great showcase of forgiveness. Um, at one point she had blocked me off everything, and despite everyone warning, I was like, I'm gonna forgive her, right? And it, I don't regret it, but because of this action, that led to a very undesirable outcome that would have been so much easier to deal with if I didn't do that. If I had been ruthless, as Poseidon would say, or if I would have been less forgiving. And one movie that I constantly go back to watch to not only remind myself about stuff, but also just in general, like because it's a great movie, but also because there are a lot of lessons in it that I try to get, and as I grow older, I started paying attention to newer and newer lessons and whatnot in them, and get a better understanding. And one of them that, despite not watching, I'm probably gonna watch it tomorrow. Well, this Saturday, so today or tomorrow. One of them is forgiveness. The story as a whole is about forgiveness in general, right? No one can deny that Silent Voice is a story about forgiveness. But one thing that I find interesting is they kind of propose a question of when do you give too much forgiveness? And this question isn't directly proposed. It's more like it's more showcased with the character interactions, in my opinion. In particular, one of the person I relate to the most, in general, being Chioya, aka the main character of Silent Voice, right? Um, and it heavily explores with this because this entire like most of it is from his point of view, of course, and like proposing questions from his point of view. Um, there was nothing I could have done there, but um, I'm trying to word this properly. But back to the question of how much forgiveness is too much, and this heavily showcased when it comes to his interaction with his previous friends and the person who he used to bully. And I never really paid much attention to that. I was more focused on the scapegoat aspect. As I can tell you right now, I have I do that a lot. Where even in this scenario, where to be completely honest, there's nothing I could have done um, different in my opinion. Uh, like I would love to say it was a communication issue, but I don't think that was the case. Um, at least on my part. But I'm probably gonna say I'm wrong about that. But that's besides the point. Okay, the point is, I normally focus on that aspect. That's a very not to say easy aspect to get caught on, but it's a very like obvious in your face aspect, and pretty understandable. And I always focus on that. 'Cause I was like, okay, that's interesting to know, right? But I didn't really focus on the other aspect of it until well now, and I realized that while yes, the story preaches forgiveness, there are also questions like when is it like not enough? Like when did the person hurt you too much to be forgiven? And of course, this is explored to do Shoya because main character and the main person trying to redeem himself, but it's also explored with other characters too. In particular, um, kinda not really in the movies. I heard a little bit more in the manga, but with the main character old friends, the one that were like bullying with Chio with him, and then they're like, "What? We would never." Um, sorry, it's hard for me to focus on two things at once like this. I was trying to give y'all entertainment gameplay, uh, but I realized that I did by doing that I sacrificed quality of it. But the point is, um, overall, when it comes to honestly, give me a second. I'm about to just switch this game mode. I'm gonna just do some fishing in Terraria because that would be. Actually, let me pause. Let me pause stream. Figure out what would be the. I thought Terraria would be way easier, but it's. That was okay. Let me make sure that y'all can't hear it. All right. Um, the point. I mean, one. Okay, I lost so much track. I gotta mute the game because this audio is. That was okay. Let me make sure that y'all can't hear it. Okay. There we go. Sorry, it was getting hard for me to focus. But this idea of when it's too much forgive is just for the Shoya, and they the way they did it was they classified it as it depends on the person in the case basis, and it's really interesting for me to look at this and think about this scenario because another thing that they heavily express is the ideal of it being brave not to run away, and I think that it is true, but I think I also twisted it a little in my own head to try to make it not try to make it, but that made it more like self-deprecating than anything else. Because despite what the story is, a story about forgiveness, it doesn't say to forgive everyone. Um, quite the opposite, actually. Especially in the movie, the main character doesn't seem to forgive the people, like his old friends, but the point of that point during that section is not about that. It's about him like questioning, like, okay, why did they do this? And I think I passively took up a bunch of that viewpoints without like understanding it, and I kind of get understanding now because it's the thing about forgiveness in the story, right? Is it's not 100% given, it's kind of earned, and one of the key factors to it is the amount of effort someone is willing to put into it. And I'm realizing that it depends on the person view. It's not a baseline value on why, but there should be some value when it comes to taking the other person into consideration. And I realized that I never really took that into account. Despite watching him story a bunch of times, and despite going back to rewatch it as a way to remind me of this stuff, I think that I also passively picked up on some of the negative sides of it because I didn't think about it. Where Joya version of forgiveness, most of the movie is actually kind of self-destructive in the way that he does care for the person. Well, both Joya, but more specific Choita, I think that's pronounced her name. I'm just gonna call her Death Girl and MC from now on because if you know my videos, I heavily butcher the names. Um, but and can't remember them very well. But the point is, uh, both of them like act on forgiveness to the point of kind of self-deprecation and self-destruction. In Shoita's case, he literally doesn't push back on anyone and blame himself for it, and which leads to him make himself the scapegoat, and kind of not kind of, which also leads to this massive like breakup of the group because at a certain point you just got fed up with it. But it also is heavily showcased within Death Girl point of view, because although she is satisfied with everyone giving the bare minimum to do it, and part of that is because of her own viewpoint of her life being very low. And when your viewpoint of your life is very low, it is easy to forgive everything. And this kind of ties back to another series, which kind of covered this entire area, but instead of forgiveness, is mercy and ruthlessness. And that's Epic the Musical. If you know Epic the Musical, you know the fact that overall, the entire point of Epic is saying that, like, yeah, ruthlessness is necessary sometimes, but not all the time. It's a balance that you have to strike. Um, and ruthlessness is different from, uh, forgiveness, but it comes from a place of also need to defend oneself, right? Like, that was terrible. Ruthlessness being mercy upon ourselves is not being like, hey, you have to always be ruthless. As, take for instance, if Odysseus would have killed Calypso, they would have never got back home. Like, it's point blank, never would have made it home, right? Well, he would have never made it home. But the point is, ruthlessness isn't always needed, and isn't always a bad thing. Even though in this story it takes place of like murder and whatnot, it can also be cutting people off and setting strict boundaries, which is something that some would to touch on, but it's not as evident as other things about forgiveness and whatnot. And this is especially showcased within stuff like um, the musical, right? And I have been thinking about it because I realized the fact that despite what I would like to think, I still am growing older, but I think I adapted too much. Um, Going back to the thesis of it, went into too much, and I went. I forgot what I was going to use. When actualizing stuff, it's hard to strike a proper balance. Anime as a whole is not just anime. Storytelling as a whole is a medium that is used to showcase an actual and make a metaphorication, uh, illustration of different ideals and principles. Anime especially have a lot of higher up principles in some series. Depends on which one. But even like some of the darker series, you still have these principles that are higher, what you consider like, oh, these are good principles to have. It's embedded within the story. Haven't read it or watched it, but from what I know of Berserk, well, yes, his rage is understandable, definitely understandable. Guts isn't like Guts isn't praised for his actions, like even by Guts himself, right? Because the message of the story overall is kind of one of being like, you have to have the will to fight, but when is it too much? Like, when does your hatred just become self-destruction? Um, and when it comes to stuff like this, when it comes to actualization of the media you consume, you can assume the right part, but also assume the wrong part too. And it's especially hard to consume the right part and understand the right messages. And I think that I had messed it up when it came to the forgiveness part because I was too focused on trying to understand everyone's point of view that I didn't really focus on my own point of view. And was so caught up on the why and the how that I didn't take a second to think, well, how about how I'm feeling? Like, to break down the first scenario, I have no clue how this game mode works. To break down it into different cases, right? The first person I talk about would remind me of Ruthlessness. She was a friend of mine who we had fallen out of, right? And on multiple occasions I had to try to cut her out because I'm just gonna be honest, I knew that, hey, this isn't gonna work out. But I constantly try to do like to work it out because I was trying to like be considerate of her feelings and whatnot. Um, and even to the last occasion, she never really seemed to be open to communication or anything like that. To the extent of which I am, and I think it comes from the like I actualize some good things about anime being like, oh yeah, communication, matureness, and whatnot. But I don't like the people who I'm trying to do this with are the people who are changed by it. And even the last time I tried, despite really trying my best and actively like when I went to go call her, actively telling her like, hey, this is about like we're gonna be discussing what the heck issues and whatnot. She still didn't weren't like listening to me fully and didn't really care. And if I had successfully actualized the stories and the songs I've been listening to, right, like Ruthlessness, I could have cut it off anytime sooner and still would have been good. But would it have been? Because another key message of Silent Voice, and just most anime as a whole, is that one of the bravest things you can do is confront the thing. Not just with like cutting them off, but like actually take your time to try to understand what's going on. And I think that's what I try to do. Oh, thanks BB Alex, well, BB Alex, GB123 for following me. Um, Hope you're still on the stream to hear that. Thank you. But yeah, we heavily discussed about like what is like saying that bravery is the challenges and facing them head on. You can look at stuff like just look at all my favorite series, and you can kind of see this. Silent Voice is a story where the main character bravery is the fact that, despite kind of being for selfish actions at first, eventually leads to not being for selfish action, of course. But the main character is confronting his past and trying to understand it, right? And rationalize it. Naruto, a series that I love, but for because still growing up, so I've been professional to opinions before, and I do not hold them still. Some of them I still do. Like I will say, Naruto is sometimes like there's some points in writing where I'm like, I would have done it differently, but that's how it is for most series. But Naruto, literally the main thing is like, yeah, no, talking it out is what we should have done versus trying to create the solution by just brute forcing it, which just leads to more problems. My Academia. I can go on and on and on about these stories in which tell amazing things, but confronting the issue is more. And I think that has overcome my self preference. Oh my god, that's so bad. I am legitimately sorry. I'm just gonna be honest. I would have missed that even though I wasn't streaming. But to go back to the story. But and I feel like they are correct. You are. I feel 100 times better when I confront it, but it's also 100 times worse when the other person doesn't do that, and there's a massive sync in between those two. I have no excuse. I'm really bad at this game. Um, and what was I saying? And it led me to back the question of like, would it have been better if I would have just gave up sooner, if I didn't try to understand her and meet her and her point. And I think it's still a no. Like, despite what happened, I still enjoyed not every moment with her, but I wouldn't like go and be like, oh yeah, you know what? Nah, this is dumb. Why would I ever like try to match her? But I can acknowledge the fact that it wasn't the best mindset for me to have. I was too focused on trying to understand versus being understood. Um, and then the newest one, I realize this now, looking back on it with hindsight, that I do not regret a single thing. I truly don't. But I don't know how to phrase this. Even though I don't regret a single thing, I still wonder what I could do differently. And the first thing that comes to mind is the fact that when she had first did that thing to me, I'm gonna say it a little. Block me, give me a second, I gotta drink some water. Hopefully that wasn't too loud. Um, she had blocked me the first time. I was just had given up, and I tried to meet her at the point. What happened recently when would have been even a fraction of a big deal, but I think that it that what she done is what really made me question when is it too much? Like when is forgiveness too like been too forgiving? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm trying my best to understand if I have been too forgiving because it's a generally confusing state for it to be. Because on one hand, you want to be as forgiving as possible to understand the other person, but on the other hand, it seems like there's a scene in between the two of like y'all. And in particular, for this, it seems like knowing where some of my actions not being read the proper way, but also like I think I'm just more not only mature, but also kind of like the main character of the thing, Kawasaki, where it's like, which is so relatable. I'm gonna make a video about that after this. But the point is that I'm trying to match her point, but she didn't seem to match mine, and don't seem to match my maturity and understand me and match it. If you get what I'm saying, and it begs the question on did I give her too much forgiveness? Did I let too much slide? And if I did, what should I have done instead? And that's just an interesting question to propose. Like all around, I don't know if there's any correct answer outside of a case by case basis. And like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm disappointed with her actions. But and like even if it wasn't, like, even if it was someone else, that would have been way better. But unless you, no, I already told her this, but that was dumb. But like, it's it's kind of the question of when it's too much. And sound of voice, it doesn't seem like there ever is a crossing point, but it doesn't necessarily demoralize that factor. They actually somewhat diminish it. Like both characters who are so willing to forgive, being the two characters who struggle the most mentally within just the just within Silent Voice, right? it leaves me wondering if one of the things that made uh MC or Shio Shinshu, I don't know how to say it, I'm just messing up more and more. I'm so sorry. Just like a scapegoat was because of the fact that he was so willing to forgive people, and if that is what gonna happen. So after all I said, hopefully I can kind of understand what I mean by this, and I hope that y'all kind of get my point of view of things and kind of think about like things yourself. Um, I'm gonna share this with both of these people because maybe this would be good for them to understand maybe how I'm feeling. Probably not. Um, but with that being said, um, thank you for watching this video. I'm gonna see how long I can clip the thing for because if I can clip the entirety of this time so far, then I will. I will definitely do that. I just don't know how long. Uh, yep. Okay. I don't think I can clip the entire minute, like the entire stream. So what's gonna happen now is I'm gonna end the stream, start a new one. But for those who aren't watching the stream and watching this live, me not watching live, thank you for watching the video. I'm gonna leave you with the question of when do y'all classify something as too much? And ask y'all for how do y'all want me to get better at this? Because I think I could have improved overall with some things. But just let me know. Sorry, the last few minutes are just y'all looking at the screen. Because that was preparing a shutdown. But with that being said, thank you all for watching. I'll see y'all next time. If you're watching this live with me, then y'all will see me in just a few seconds. I just realized I would be ending stream off my Xbox and not the thing. But yeah, bye for now.